Today I'd like to kick off the first episode of a new series for the channel titled Craig's 8, and it doesn't take much guessing to know it's going to be about this, the 1997 BMW 840 that I introduced in my last video. I've owned the car now for just over 2 years, so in this first episode I'd like to cover off why I bought it, how much it's cost me to run, and what it's been like to live with for the last 2 years. Buy this car? Well, if you're anything like me, you'll be guilty of spending far too long scrolling through Auto Trader and eBay car adverts, and there's only so long you can do that before either going insane or deciding to do something about it. I'd had an itch for a while for a V8 and a classic car. I was going to an awful lot of car shows and car meets, and I suppose I wanted to be part of the club. I noticed that I kept coming back to articles and adverts for the 8 Series, and after about 6 months of searching I actually found this car, and it popped up only 30 miles away from where I live. If I was going to buy an 8 Series, it had to be in Estoril Blue, and preferably with the factory option BBS alloy wheels. And so it was really fortunate that this one popped up so close to home. It was easy enough to go and see it. One thing that really impressed me with the car when I went to see it was just how original and clean it really was, especially for the budget that I had. It came with a full file of paperwork, even the original sales invoice and sales brochure, the first aid kit, which is just in the rear seat in the middle there, is still in its shrink wrap. I've got the full toolkit, and even in the glove box it's got the original torch. So how much has the car cost me to run? The first few months actually were really good. Nothing had gone wrong, and that was actually a really big thing for me when I was deciding whether to go through with the purchase or not. I was absolutely convinced I'd buy the car and the next day it would go bang and it would just be worth scrap. Luckily for me that didn't happen. A few months after I bought it, I was driving home from a car show along the M4, and there was an almighty racket, huge bang. Something had obviously clearly fallen off the car, and of course I went straight back into panic mode. Oh my god, something's broken, it's going to be thousands of pounds to fix. Sent it into the garage, and it turned out the car had disposed of its own horn. So that was replaced, and at the same time the inner track rod ends on the front were replaced, and it was also found, having put up on the ramp, that the mid silencer was rotten through. So that was removed. As you can hear, it now sounds like a V8. And before that was removed, actually the 8 Series, even though it's a V8, was actually a really quiet car. BMW built it to be a refined machine. And I thought I'd have the air conditioning looked into, because that was something that wasn't working on the car when I bought it. And that's a common occurrence on 8 Series. Don't be put off if you come across an 8 Series looking to buy one without working aircon. That is quite common. I sent it into the garage for it to be looked at, and at the end of the day had a call. Great news, aircon's working. Bad news, it's taken twice as much gas as any other car we've seen. That cost £120. I had perfect air conditioning for 2 weeks. This thing really does blow it out at quite some force. And then it stopped working again. Christmas 2019, I tried to turn the car on Christmas Eve, and the batteries are dead. I hadn't used it for 4 weeks, and that was £280 for 2 new batteries. The lesson there is don't leave your classic car sat up for 4 weeks without turning it on, or if you do, buy yourself a trickle charger. It's much cheaper in the long run. The CD changer brackets in the boot were missing, as was one of the 2 lights on the inner boot lid and the emergency fuel cap release cable. So I've sourced second-hand parts for those at £80, and I'm going to fit those myself, hopefully very soon. So all in, that's what, £1,280, and over 2 years I don't think that's bad at all. So what's it been like to own a car like this? Well, I've definitely scratched that V8 itch that I mentioned earlier. Cruising along with the windows down, with that V8 burble, especially since the silencer was removed. There can't be many better feelings than that. And I've fulfilled a boyhood dream. I had a poster of one of these cars on my wall as a kid, and now I'm actually driving one. I sometimes have to pinch myself. I can't quite believe that. As well as that, you know, I've gone to an awful lot of shows and events that I'd never have had the opportunity to go to without this car, and that in turn has led me to meet people that I now consider friends, people I wouldn't have met before, as well as the one-on-one time it's given me with my daughter. She's affectionately named the car Flo, in memory of my gran, who passed away a few months before we bought the car. She loves driving around in it, me picking her up in the school run. Well, I'm not sure how long that'll go on for. I'm sure I'll be an embarrassing dad before long. She really enjoys washing the car with me. There's 1 or 2 shows during the year that she really loves going to, and she's really proud actually that last year at one of the local shows she took a little toy Ferrari with her to display next to this car and won a trophy, and it's something even a year down the line she still talks about with such a big smile on her face. And that just makes all of this, all that risk and worry, needless worry before I bought the car, whether I should do it, shouldn't I do it, you know, seeing the beam on her face when we're driving along, and the time we have at shows, the experience it's given her, it makes everything worth it. This car over my shoulder is proof that sometimes, just sometimes, taking a risk and following a dream can pay off. The last 2 years have been tremendous fun. A huge learning curve, don't get me wrong, but fun nonetheless. And here's to many more years of the same. That brings us to an end of episode 1, and I'd just like to say a thank you to every single person who's watched my videos so far and subscribed to the channel. If you like what I'm doing, and you're not already a subscriber, please do subscribe, but also like the videos to spread it out in whatever happens, so that more people get to see. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Right, what next?
Of Craig's 8. Oh dear. If you're going to show off, at least do it properly. Bless them. It would get to 60 in 7 seconds dead, and it would go on to a limited top speed of 155 miles an hour.